All right, quote of the day. Short, sweet, and simple. Fear is boring by Elizabeth Gilbert. Thanks, Liz. All right, out working in the garage. It's like 86 degrees in here. It's like 90 something outside and no humidity, so I'm sweating in the garage. Probably look like hell, but making progress on the Puzzle Fox. So I got the subframe all mounted under here. I got just one bolt on each side holding this rear mount on. So you can see next steps is going to be getting stuff figured out for bolting it up under the bottom and welding something on here so I can get another bolt in the back. But I got all the bolts in here. I greased everything up and used a dead blow mallet hammer to get those persuaded into place, and it took quite a bit of persuasion. Then I noticed too this side was going in a little rough. Then I noticed that the bushing here must have been up on the inside of that, so I was actually kind of shearing some of that bushing off before I really realized it and kind of got it tapped in. So only shaved a little bit off an edge of it, I think. So it's looking pretty good, pretty happy with it. A little upset that hitting it with the hammer kind of marred some of this coating, but well, the coating's still on there. And when I first tried to put this under here, I just had these hanging loose, and they swung down and hit against here and kind of chipped up some of my coating, but got a little bit of it left. I could just spray a little more on there. And same with this side. Got to get that. This side it looks like there's a little gap, but we'll get it figured out. So next step is I'm going to take these bolts out and then hopefully swing this rear section of the subframe down just enough so that I can get these out of place and start working on this tab. I'm just going to add some material on the back here, fill that hole in, and then add some material and kind of square off this back end so that I can drill a new hole that'll line up with the hole that's currently in the Foxbody frame here. Then I'm going to drill some holes for in the bottom and put a plate up inside the frame there, so I can run some bolts in up from the bottom. All right. So one last thing, I got the brackets pulled off of here and kind of noted where I'm gonna have to add material for these bolts. And I did notice that this subframe was up against this sheet metal right here when you go to jack it all the way up. So I got a little sheet metal massaging to do there, so I thought I'd probably do that on both sides. May swing this down out of the way enough where I can kind of pound on it a little bit. I did notice we did put the upper control arms on here, and they did hit these tabs that were folded down here before for the where the bump stops were for the solid axle. So I just got those bent out of the way for now, but I am just going to end up removing these and hopefully cleaning up some more rust out of the bottom of there. But again, like I said, for as far as Minnesota cars go, this thing is pretty clean. All right, and I'll show what I did here. I just had some, it's all pretty warm. So I just had some flat metal stock there, so I ended up cutting that stuff out and welding it in place here. So I got it welded on both sides, kind of crappy welds here. Here, I'll try to clean those up. So I got this kind of cleaned up a little, so you can see I cut some steel out of there and welded it in place, because you can kind of see there's a little dimple I created kind of straight down from where the hole is right now for where I'm gonna have to drill a new hole about that same size. So I'll probably just try to fill that in just with some welds, I think, and smooth it out. We'll kind of see how that goes. And then this side, just kind of put a bead on there so I can grind that all smooth. But yeah, so I ended up doing that with both of the brackets here. Got it all welded in. I don't know if I'll work on grinding that smooth tonight. Okay, showing where I'm finishing up for the night. So these are the brackets for the back. So like I was showing before, I welded on a piece here, kind of a narrow triangular piece here. Got it all welded on. Did a weld on both sides, had to touch up a little bit of a weld there, so that's why you see the discoloration. But did that on both sides. Still got my little divot for where the new hole's gonna have to be centered up. This one almost looks like I kind of got the hole a little off center, so maybe I'll tweak that a little bit. But as you can see, they're both welded on. There's actually, it almost looks like it was kind of pressed up here, so it's not quite even, so that's kind of why it looks like there's a ledge there, because there is a little bit of one. But I got the bracket getting pretty close to done. I gotta find some copper plate that I had. I think I'm just gonna put the copper plate behind there and just start tacking and filling each of those holes in, and then grind them smooth when I'm done. I'm not gonna get too picky since it's gonna be the back side, but it's coming along pretty well. Pretty happy with where I'm at, and calling it quits for the night. So do a little bit more of an update here before I get rolling again. Trying to remember what I showed last, but I do have the subframe all mounted up underneath here. So it's bolted up on the front. I got everything set up on the back, made the adjustments too, but I got everything mounted up here, and I worked on the brackets, and I made some holes in the bottom here for where bolts will go through. So there's a hole here, you can see some rust flakes there. But there's a couple holes in there, and then I drilled a couple holes for some plug welds there, so I'll have the 2 bolts in from the bottom, the 2 bolts from the side for each of these rear mounts. I got the rear mounts sitting over here right now. I did clean them up a little bit, and you can see this is the part where it's been, welded on. Well, you can't really see it, but take my word for it. So we got that welded on. The hole used to be up higher, so I drilled the new hole there. And then I just used some more of the rocker guard stuff that I used on the IRS subframe, and got it all kind of coated up. I just used some flat black header paint on this side since it's not going to be visible. But the side that will be kind of visible is that same rocker guard that the subframe is in. So got both of these done. Holes there ready to go, holes here ready to go, and I'll show you what I did for the brackets that'll go up inside the frame. So the brackets that go up inside the frame, I just got some, what is this, grade 10.9 or whatever hardware bolts, and I had some flat metal that I just cut into a couple of pieces, so this will fit up inside the frame rail, and welded some nuts to it. They were some of those with the plastic lock washer thing in there, but the heat from welding kind of took care of those. So I'll probably just throw some Loctite on these bolts when I throw the subframe on for the final time, or the subframe mounts. But these will go up inside the frame rail and then get plug welded. So this is just weld through primer, so they'll get plug welded up in place once I have that rear mounts, IRS subframe mounts up in place there. And then I got the plug welds so that they're out past where the bracket is, so I can plug weld while these brackets are bolted up in place. But I'll show that a little more later when I get to that point. So doing a little more update on what I've gotten done here. So I got this bracket up in place. I swung the subframe up and just loosely put this bolt in, just to kind of keep it in where it needs to be. Unfortunately, I'm like at the forward edge of the hole here in order to make everything fit from the front to the back. And so I got the bolts started in there. So it's at least got this rear part of the subframe captured. I put these 2 bolts in on the side of the frame rail and just kind of snugged them up a little, and I took the plate that I had and I actually fished it up into the frame rail. And I had holes drilled for plug welds in the front and the back. So I got that plate up in there. These were snug on the side. Put the bolts in from the bottom and tighten them down really good. Then tighten these down pretty good too. And then I did a plug weld on the front and rear. And I did the same thing on the driver's side. So what I'm going to do next is I do have a hole that's kind of in the center between these 2 bolts. So I'm going to undo the rear end of the subframe and these other bolts, drop these brackets off, and get that last plug weld. Back out in the garage the next day. So today is Saturday, September 16th, 2023. I was supposed to do an epic mountain bike race today that I kind of reluctantly gave up my spot in, but didn't feel too bad about it after the fact, just because of different health things. Like, I don't want to hit my head. I'm on blood thinners now ever since I got the heart valve replacement. So, and plus my wife really worried about me being out for could have been 12, 13, 14 hours out on a bike. So I decided, instead of doing epic things on a mountain bike today, I'm going to do epic things in the garage with the old Puzzle Fox here. This thing has not been on the ground on its own wheels since December. I went back and I looked back in all my on all my photos. So it was December 23rd, 2020 when this car came off the ground and started getting stripped down to what you're seeing here today. So it's been a good 2.5 years since it sat on its own 2 wheels. So like I said, instead of doing epic things on a mountain bike, going to do epic things in the garage today, and my goal is to have this thing sitting on all 4 wheels by the end of the day. So let's see how I do. And this is what I'm up to right now. I've given an update, I think, on all this. I got these rear IRS mounts bolted up, but I was hoping this textured paint would hold up, but as soon as I go to tighten the bolts down, oh, looks like I don't have that one tight. Oh, that's right, I left them kind of loose until I get this back up. But anyway, when I did tighten the bolts down last night, it chipped off right down to the primer. So I'm gonna have to figure something else out with that, I think. Now I'm starting to think I'm gonna take this out at some point, blast it all down again, and powder coat it. But we'll see, maybe I'll change my mind back again. But got that all mounted. I did have to clearance up here on the underside on the far side there so that it wouldn't run into this IRS subframe. And I started taking off the bump stop mounts last night. So as you can see here, just kind of use a spot weld drill and got some of those knocked out of there. But then you couldn't get to this top one, just how it's set up in here. So it sat way up in there. You couldn't get up there with a spot weld drill. So I ended up taking the old, where is it? Oh, there it is. So I ended up taking the old air chisel to it and kind of bunged the frame up a little bit here. So I'll get a punch and kind of pop that back in and probably hit it with the welder and just try to kind of seal that up a little bit. But that's where I'm at right now. So I'm going to get busy and I'll show you updates through the day as I progress. So like I said, want to get this thing on all 4 wheels for the first time in 2.5 years. So I'm pretty close to having that ready to mount the IRS subframe. I'm just going to bolt on control arms and the in-links, spindles, whatever the proper term is for that IRS. I'm not going to put in the differential or half shafts or anything like that, but I tried to fill in some spots on the bottom of the frame rail where I got a little crazy with the drill and just kind of tried to smooth off what I could. Smoothed it off on the bottom of the frame rail. I think these should be okay here since the shock is going to sit up here and the coilover is going to sit up there in the shock tower. So I think I should be good. They're pretty smooth welds there anyway. They shouldn't really snag on anything. What I'm going to do next is try to get some control arms on here and the end links. Oh, here's the other bump stop. This one I mutilated a little bit less, so. But that's where I'm at. Gonna try to get some control arms on here. They're all sitting up there. So it's time to start digging stuff out and kind of slopping it back together. So my intention here is I'm not going to like tighten down every bolt, but just kind of get bolts in there so they're captured. Get the control arms on here first, and then I'll probably pop the subframe back up into all its mounts, and then get the spindles, or trying to think of the actual correct term for the piece out on the end for the IRS. So, all right, update on the Puzzle Fox here. So I got everything. These rear brackets mounted up tight, just some bolts slopped in for the lower control arms, and just got the nuts on the end of them. See, yeah, you can see that a little bit. And everything's just kind of loosely mocked up in here. I got these control rods in here just to kind of keep things straight and square. I'm debating just locking down this top one since it's got a cam in it for the camber and everything, and it looks like it's pretty close to where it probably was when it came apart, so that might be a good spot to kind of cinch it down. Got the rear end together about as far as I figure I'm going to put it together, just to get it set on some wheels. So about the other main thing I have to do, of course, is get the coilover set up. So we'll see how tricky that is for getting that stuff in here, because it looks like you can only swing this down so far and mount it up there. All right, so I thought I'd just get this one coilover put together. It's a pretty simple process. So here's the coilover mounted up in the car, loosely mounted. I just got some bolts kind of finger tight. So the biggest deal I ran into was I was all excited about doing this. So I pulled out this sleeve first and put it around the shock. I'm like, oh, that's very loose on there. That can't be right. And then I pulled out this other sleeve that mounts up pretty snug against the body of the shock and has a little lip at the top for maintaining its spot on the shock. And the other big thing is you have to press out the original bushing out of here. So that was a little bit of a pain, so you had to push that original bushing out, but putting these other ones in is a pretty easy process. So you pop these suckers in there, slide that sleeve on the inside of them, and then put that body on the shock along with that collar that's in the box right here right now. So that goes on the bottom of the sleeve, if this was the right sleeve. I've called and emailed Maximum Motorsports already, let them know that they sent me the wrong part in there. So this is the hat that goes at the top of the coil spring, at the top of the shock. And then this guy sits on the very top of that, grease that up, put some grease in there. And then this guy fits in the top of there. And then it has just the regular rubber bushing and bolt that goes on the top of the shock inside the car. So unfortunately I'm not going to be able to get the one on the passenger side, but at least I have the one on the driver's side, on the left side. But luckily I got one in here at least. Last update for the day, car's not going to be a roller, unfortunately. Just had enough little snafus. I am happy that I made some progress. About kind of where I thought I would be for the day, but if I had all the hardware I needed, like the correct sleeve for that other coilover, I would have had that in there, and I could have at least put some wheels in place to see how that would look. So a little frustrated especially with that wrong sleeve on the back. That was kind of the biggest hitch that I had today, but feeling good about where I'm at. I had to do this because I said I was going to make this car a roller today, even though Like I said, it's not going to get to that point. But here we are. I stuck a wheel on the car just to see how it would look. It's hanging at the bottom of the suspension travel right now, so it still has the 4x4 look, but Barney approves. But this is a set of like 96 GT wheels that I just got for some roller wheels and tires. So again, no brakes on it, just the suspension kind of put together a little bit to see how it is. Alright guys, I just had to try something out here, so I grabbed one of my wheels and just threw it on here. So this is a side that doesn't have the coilover put on it already. Actually, I contacted Maximum Motorsports like I had talked about via email and phone call. And they actually responded to my email really quick, and I'm very, very, very pleasantly surprised and happy that I even got a notice today. So I called them on Saturday, or sent the email on Saturday, and I got a message from them today and an invoice for $0, and they're shipping out the right sleeve that I need for that for the shock to go on this side. So I'm really happy to see that. I was afraid that I'd be playing on the waiting on parts game, but that stuff's getting sent. But I thought in the meantime, since I did bolt the wheel on the other side that does have the coilover on it, just for grins, and I found another wheel and just slopped it on this side without the coilover on it, just to play around with it. So I stuck a jack under the control arm just to kind of show how it looks through its travel here. So I'll just kind of jack it up here. Got my handy dandy Harbor Freight or Fleet Farm jack or whatever it is, but regardless. So it's kind of neat to see that it does kind of rotate out and up, of course, on the control arms. And that lower control arm's about flat right now. I kind of wanted to see what it looked like too and kind of study it. Got about an inch of room back here. I see why they do the low profile bolts instead of the big bolt. There's about an inch of space right there. I'll show that in a second. I think this is going to be maybe somewhere in there. It's probably about the ride height I'll go for when it's all said and done. But again, like I've probably mentioned before, is I want to do like a wide body kit on here. So this is just some wheels off of probably like a 96, 97 Mustang GT, somewhere in there. And it's just got some 245s on it, I believe. Yeah. 245, 45, 17. Yeah. And then keep in mind everything's just loosely set up right now. So it's clearing the fender there with it kind of cambered. It's probably got some camber in on it right there though. Well, it's just barely clearing the fender lip right there. Oh, it's hitting on the back side of the fender lip. So that's kind of an interesting look, but that's not what I'm going for, but just thought I'd see how it looks. That looks like it's about as far as it'll go. It's that upper control arm's almost up against the frame rail there. But I think that's about what we'll go for when it's all said and done. There we go. There you can see that bolt. But there's probably That's kind of up out of the way there, but I think as you let the jack down, and you can see as it kind of comes down off of its arc, it's awful close right there. Probably barely be able to stick a finger in, up in between there. Yeah. Can't hardly even get a finger up in between that bolt head and the tire right now, so as it droops down, it gets awful close. But that's what I wanted to see. Looking pretty good.